what's up, everybody? We are back, obviously the favourite show of the week, and we are joined tonight by a very special guest, Mr. Barry Fitzgerald. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
For having me, guys.
Nick is coming. He will be late. He's just getting out of work, but he will be here.
Fashionably late.
He's always fashionably late, but he's a little bit too fashionably late tonight. Tuna, thank you for joining us. Jeff, Rob, Matt, thank you so much for you guys joining us again tonight. It's going to be an awesome show. Mr. Barry, so you live in Ireland.
I do, yes.
Yes. So what's all your life? So what's your background in the paranormal side of things? Where's this all like begun for you, like in your time?
I think, to be honest, I think most Irish have got their toe dipped into that spiritual world. I think it's part of our Celtic heritage, really. And certainly for me, like many other researchers, that has up to where we are now, and a lot of those experiences, of course, accelerated the more that I got involved with it, and right up until a lot of the recent work now, which has taken me through cryptid investigations and ufological investigations as well. Just to see that there's a very common thread that weaves its way through many of the different research fields. So I think for me, growing up in a haunted house as a child certainly was one of those cornerstones. And I can remember one particular Christmas. It was Christmas Eve. I woke up with a terrible thirst, and as a child, I was naturally afraid of the dark and everything else, and I needed to go to the kitchen. So the stairs, it was a double staircase with a landing halfway down. So I was able to look over the staircase before I went down into the darkness, and it was at that point that I saw the figure coming up the stairs who I didn't recognize. No, it was Christmas Eve. I was immediately assumed as a child that's Santa.
I was going to say Santa Claus, yeah.
So I hightailed it back to the room and forced myself back to sleep. And when I woke, the toys were at the end of the bed. So I added two and two together, and that was it. It was only years later that I spoke to my parents, because the town that we lived in, a lot of the locals knew that the house was haunted. There were stories about the house, but my parents never shared anything like that with us as children. So I have nothing but very fond memories of that house. And it was just at that particular point that we were discussing the house that I said, well, I remember this person coming up the stairs. And that's when my parents then said what they had also experienced during our time in that house. And it was strange that those since leading up into my adulthood, I have been plagued by nightmares, actually, of that house. Even though mentally I don't remember anything bad ever happening in that house, yet my nightmares are plagued by something in that house. And to this day, I have no idea what it was, because the house has been subsequently knocked down and nothing is left.
Well, that's a shame.
Wow. Actually, real quick, Barry, the family on my mother's side hails from Donegal and Armagh, actually.
Oh, yes.
So I got a little bit of...
Actually, I was up in Donegal there today.
Oh, yeah?
Actually.
Always wanted to go. One of these days I'll get out that way.
Isn't it crazy that how we're on like opposite sides of the world, yet something like that it was so close to each other?
My mother heard that this was going to be about Irish stuff, and she was freaking out. She was like, "Oh my god, that's awesome!" So,
but yeah, a little bit about us anyway. So, as you because I don't know if Nick's told you about us. So, me and Amy, we started doing paranormal stuff. Probably,
I've been into it a lot longer than
you've been in a lot longer than me. I've been into it seriously, probably only for about a year and a half, 2 years. We started our own channel that you're on now in October, was it? October, yeah.
Last year, yeah,
Yeah.
roughly.
So we collect haunted dolls. We do investigations with Haunted Nights, which is a company in the UK you may have heard of. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do. Mr. Hefty
Just quickly.
is the Lord of Horror. He is just one of the boxes in the foreshow down about his screen move ever so slightly.
What?
You've got stuff
All right, I'm
in
gonna
your house, Barry,
have to
apparently.
go back
I'm
and look at that.
Pins.
Wow.
It could be. It's probably one of mine.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely got to go back and see that.
Guys, keep an eye on that. So Adam is the Lord of Horror, as I said. Like anything horror-wise, he's your man. And Spice, you go to him.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
Mr.
being
Marty,
spicy stuff.
yeah, Marty. If you want having someone to look after your kids, send them straight to Marty.
Full socks. Full
I'm
socks.
just a great babysitter. That's all I am.
No. Marty's a top guy, top dad. One of the best dads I've ever heard of.
Massive alien fan.
Yeah, he's huge. UFO, aliens, he's your guy. And obviously, Nick, what Nick does.
Nick knows his dates.
Anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, he's a
walking
wealth
encyclopedia.
of information. Yeah. We should call it Nickopedia.
Yeah, there you go.
You know?
Become a thing now.
Yeah, it's going to be that. We can start his own website.
We should, start
Nickopedia from now on.
Nickopedia. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's crazy. You lived in this haunted house. And I suppose when, like you say, as a kid, you thought it was Santa. And I suppose that shows the innocence of children, doesn't it? That how they're so sensitive, but they don't understand what they're seeing.
At
that time, yeah, you would.
Considering, yeah, but even considering the innocence of the child doesn't have to see to understand what it's mixed with, because a child will develop more with its senses. It's these extra things that are coming in, that as an adult we tend to move them to the side. A child has got that innocence to listen to that inner instinct, and that in itself I think goes a long way, because a lot of what comes through the veil will naturally deceive us anyway by visual stimulus. It'll portray itself as being one thing and it'll turn out to be something completely different. So we're fooled by that stimulus as adults. Mm-hmm. Children tend not to be. They've got that connection, that connection to that aspect of the soul that still links it back, and it's very hard for a child to be deceived that way. You know, when you get a lot of kids there that will say, "Oh, there's something came out from the wardrobe. It came from underneath the bed," or whatever the case may be. It's interesting that as adults we go in and we look around to see what's there, and we give them comfort and maybe some milk and cookies, and send them back to bed. But the thing is, these things have come from the darkness, which is typical. Where they manifest through and come through from is the darkness. And it's interesting that as a child between the ages of 7, I think it's 7 and 13. Hey Nick.
Very nice. Nice to see you again.
A filter thickens over the eye, so it narrows. As an adult, it narrows our sensitivity, to the greater spectrum. Where children still have that extra aspect to allow them to see into the infrared and the ultraviolet spectrum.
And I feel that's something we've spoken about in past shows as well. Is just children's almost hypersensitivity to this kind of activity and stuff. Yeah. Whereas adults, and not all adults, and not to just basically rehash old stuff. Like myself, like I never lost that. Like I'm 42 years old. I'm the biggest kid you'll ever meet. And you can ask anybody that I know. And I just kind of never lost that. But I agree. I think that there are a lot of adults that just kind of, like you said, it like thickens the eyes over the eyes and such. But it's very interesting that it's a reoccurring theme on a lot of different situations.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So Nick, thank you for joining us, buddy.
Yeah, sorry about earlier. My ride got later than usual, so that's why I was trying to jump back in, but the connection even got worse. So that's why I kept freezing up. Chantel says I'm late for class. No sugar cubes is punishment, Nick. Chantel, too late. Already got him.
He already said he was going to have those, Andy.
But Barry, yeah, it's nice to see you again.
You too, Nick. You too.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like, I do think, like you're saying there, like, all this, like, as we grow up, it's such a shame. We said before that because of our busy lives and we get like dragged into the cycle of your work, you pay your bills, you have your own worries, and that magic of being a child and being like open to everything just disappears, and you almost become numb to it.
Well, it's almost like it's the media, it's your family ethos almost, envisions, it's school, all those kind of things have a negative effect against your childhood at the end of the day. Even down to like what you're saying about like
I think even technology is now serving to keep us locked away from that, especially whenever you start. The technology is designed to engage the conscious brain, and it doesn't allow for anything else through there. So we're continually being stimulated by what we see, by what's in our hand and everything else, and it's not. It doesn't allow us to breathe. And even in regards of Irish folklore and things like that, the experiences that we have had has been tremendous. When we go back into the countryside and we leave the cell phones at home, a lot of folks now, they'll say, well, these things that happened 100 years ago, they don't happen nowadays. They do happen. It's the fact that we have now become detached from that because of technology. We very rarely walk anywhere these days, and if we do walk, we've got earbuds in our ears and we're listening to music. Again, we're cutting ourselves off from what's happening around us, and it is truly amazing when you switch that off and you give yourself some time to readjust. You start connecting back into that really is around us.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Same.
Like I try and do that as well. Even now, like I know we're very busy with obviously our social media and stuff that we do now with all this the channel and that, but I do from time to time I try and just like, especially when we're sitting down and eating or something, I try and leave my devices in a different room. Like at night I will mute everything. I like to try and stay away from it as much as possible for that very reason. I totally agree with you.
Unfortunately, being a teacher, I kind of don't have that luxury. I kind of have to use one.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that over the course of the last 18 months, the majority of the world has been in lockdown, and we've started suffering this phenomena called pandemic nightmares, and these particular nightmares, they have sometimes prophetic meaning to them. But what's actually engaging is the fact that a lot of people who are staying at home are no longer using their alarm clocks, so they're entering that REM sleep naturally. They're entering the REM sleep and entering and exiting the sleep pattern naturally, and that is where you have your psychic experiences during that REM sleep period. So now that there's no more alarms, the human species is now being opened and now being introduced to this side of our psyche that for a long time we have been robbed from because of the damn alarm clock.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually. It's funny you mentioned that. For the past, I'd say like 6 months or so, my alarm has just been a just in case. Because I'm now so my alarm will be set for 8:15 in the morning, and I naturally am up at 7:45 in the morning now without my alarm clock, and I'm like, well, let's get her going. But on top of that, like I agree, I've had everybody here has known I recently had and in the past had issues with dreaming and things getting a little too friendly in my sleep with me. You know, not nothing salacious or anything like that. That sounded really
I was
weird.
gonna say you might want to clarify that a little bit.
It's nothing dirty. But you know, they were making they were making themselves known via scratches on my legs and stuff like that, and we had to kind of nip that in the bud. It's been going on for a while, but that just kind of tied in with what you were just saying. So I apologize for cutting in, but I did. So I'm sorry.
Valid point.
I just want to bring up a point Rob put in the chat earlier before I lose it. He said this. He said there was a quote from the new Conjuring movie coming out soon, saying the US courts have attested to the existence of God for so long, it's time they start acknowledging the existence of the devil.
Yep, I know that line.
Which is that's a really cool point. Like he says, they do, I know. They always say you swear on the Bible to God and all this. Then and maybe we should be more talking about that side of things because it exists. But yeah, so where was I at? I've completely lost my train of thought again.
As always.
You're going to help. You're back tonight. You're going to help.
Still recovering.
So what we're talking about. Sorry, myself. So yeah, this haunted house that you lived in. What? So you said that you had nothing like bad experiences there. Did you have any like paranormal experiences apart from the one you described, the person coming up the stairs?
Nothing that I can remember. You know, bar seeing that particular person there. My parents have had the experiences there more so than we did as children. But again, you know, my parents, they kept they shielded us from that for years. So we never knew any of what was going on, and we were only in the house maybe 3 years, and then we moved on. So and nobody really stayed in the house. You know, it had a reputation of people coming and going, and I think the last time the family was in it 6 months and they were gone, and then that was it. It remained empty then until it was knocked down.
Wow, that's crazy. Do you think that's something to do with the house, that's having that influence on people?
It's possible. You know, sometimes it's very, very difficult. You know, people will jump to they'll jump to the first thing and the first suspicion that comes along. You know, when people are brought in to see if a house is haunted, and especially today in today's society, they're very keen at using the demon word, and that's laid in, and of course that seeds its own problems. But a lot of the times, you know, I'll give you an instance. There was a house that was having some issues, and kitchen cupboards and things were being opened, and the things were being thrown everywhere, and all this was happening, and they didn't know what it was. But when we looked at it from a different perspective, we were able to see that, wait a minute, this is drawing our attention to something. And it wasn't a vicious, terrible haunting. It was actually, in fact, to draw their attention to the fact that there was an electrical problem in the kitchen that was going to burn the house down.
Wow.
That was fixed, and the haunting stopped.
What?
So
wow.
So it's a case of sometimes understanding what you're going into, and science.
Yeah.
You know, I know that coming from the show and sci-fi and stuff like that, you know, there was a lot of things about, we're a scientific team and everything else. We're no more scientific than a fly crawling up a wall, to be honest. But good science starts with observation, and that's what we need to do. We need to observe first before we roll in and start rolling out the sage and the candles and start trying to kick things out of a house that possibly there was no call to remove, and make things possibly worse. So observing what you're doing, or observing, you know, the subject matter first, and understanding it is a really good thing to do first of all.
I totally agree. Like, we do that with like, because as I said, like, we collect haunted dolls and that, and we've had, obviously, the ones there's some that we've had that the previous owners have said that they would never go anywhere near. they would like, yeah, they would like never even have them in the same room as them, and yet we keep them in our own home because I've always said, Amy, they may have had this negative stigma from before, but until they prove that to me that they are negative and they have bad intentions, I'm just going to take them, like you say, just observe them and see what the who they are. I'd rather like them tell me who they are than somebody else. Do you know if that makes sense?
Sure.
Yeah, you can't obviously hold.
I don't want to. I don't want to have that preconceived perception.
Notion. Yeah.
Like there's some here that apparently that you shouldn't even like go anywhere near. You should like always have it in a salt circle and all this. I mean, we just keep them in our living room downstairs, and
with salt. And
we've had a little bit of salt.
I
but
have
then,
stones above my bed.
But we've never had we've never had any of the issues that previous owners have described yet, though.
That's because they're all plotting.
Yeah,
they're all just like conspiring against you guys. They're all like Bobo's leading them.
That's actually a very good point. That's a very good point, Hefty, because a lot of the energies that tend to be around those particular things move slowly, and they'll wait, and it could take years before they make their move.
Sure. Well, they got nothing. I mean, it sounds like I'm joking, but they literally have nothing but time. You know,
you know, time means something.
Be warned.
Yeah.
I have crystals now I sleep with, thanks to my buddy Brody. So this seems to have stopped the problem for now, but we'll see.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yes.
Rob had a question for you, Barry. He said, "Are banshees considered paranormal entities, or are they more creatures of folklore?"
That's a good question.
Both the same. That's under the same heading. Creatures of folklore and paranormal, you know, very, very much interwoven.
Yeah.
The banshee is the name itself breaks down into woman of the she. Now, from an Irish perspective, the she are the fairy. Now, she, of course, having a Celtic heritage, where the term fairy or fae is a very English term for the same particular type of phenomena. Fairy originates from the French. So for us, it's the she, and the she also means it has a relation to the fairy beings, but it has also a relation to the Neolithic mounds dotted across the island. We have passage chambers here in Ireland, maybe from where I am now, they're 10 miles away, and these things were built before the Great Pyramids of Giza. Now we've got access to these 24/7, 365 days a year, and there's quite a crowd gathers on the mountain on the summer solstice when the low light of sunset pierces these passage chambers. So when we say banshee, it is woman of the she, woman of the fairy, not quite fairy, woman of the mounds. These beings came through the stone. There was always a connection with stone. When you consider the terminology of goblin was a grotesque creature within the English heritage, which originated as derived, taken from the French gobelin, which, when you trace that back, reverts back into German Kob. So you've got the kobolds, and Kob itself refers to hole in stone. So you've got these things coming through stone. Now, you guys in the US, Marty, Hefty, and Nick, you may be familiar with David Pauly's work of Missing 411, with all these people that go missing within the national parks and things like that. Even David has admitted that the majority of these people that disappear in boulder fields. People who end up going into cave systems, and then suddenly the cave system closes, and they're never found again. And so again, we find this connection with rocks right around the world. Even in the US, you've got the Cherokee who were very familiar with the rock people, and they were exceptionally dangerous. And yet today, again, we fall to the wayside and go, "Oh, it's okay, it's just superstition, it's folklore."
Right?
Is it really? Even in the modern sense, we still got people going missing.
This is it.
Right.
There's still all these unexplained things that happen that we just tend to brush over and just move on. It's like, well, what happens?
It's what we tend to find is that this phenomena incorporates a different mask for the next generation. So if you're wanting to follow these entities by their appearance, you won't get very far. You have to track them by phenomena. The way that they interact with it is the way that you track them back. I did hear one particular guy. I'm not going to name his name here, but he's well to do within the ufological fields, and he says that we need to get rid of our mythology because it's racist to these beings that are coming through. Now, I was livid at that particular remark because it's through our mythology that we can actually track them.
Yeah.
Once you remove mythology, you've got nothing.
Yeah,
especially
you got nothing.
When you start going back thousands of years, you got nothing. You don't know where they're coming from. You've just cleared the slate. And you give them a new ability to interact with us. And that is a big no-no from my perspective. I will continue to absorb myself in mythology and folklore to track these things.
Oh, yeah.
Are you a big believer then in the folklore that you have in Ireland?
What's that?
Are you a big believer? Is there a particular one that you believe in more than others?
I've had interaction with the Banshee, and let me tell you, she scared the bejesus out of me. I wasn't expecting that whatsoever. Now, a lot of people would say that her scream is when she announces the death of someone. Her scream it's like a fox, it's like a hare. I can tell you, and from the people that I've interviewed as well, it is nothing like that. It is something that we have never heard before and never again since.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And give you an idea of what that scream is, because I have nothing to relate it to. But I can guarantee you that when I've heard it again since, I spot it straight away. You never forget it, but I cannot.
You never forget it.
I was going to say it's a sound once you hear, you never forget it.
Yeah. But another thing about the Banshee as well is that unlike screams from a fox or from a hare caught in a trap or whatever the case may be, or even some lady down the street in a party or something screaming her head off, whatever the case may be, this when the Banshee screams, it kickstarts your fight or flight. Immediately your body picks up on those signals and your adrenaline is kicked. Hair goes up in the back of your neck and everything else. This is a scream of difference. This is an announcement of death that is coming.
Yeah.
That's why within the signal, you pay attention. That is something you have to pay attention to. And your body kickstarts to that. And it is absolutely terrifying, I can tell you. Especially when
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
And we've had the deaths that come with it. And if a lot of people have said that if you hear a Banshee scream, you're going to die. That is not the case.
Right.
If anything, the Banshee has got a sensitivity to it. And this is something that I saw when I wrote the book, The Banshee, and we interviewed people from around Ireland. She does seem to have a sensitivity to it. And she's not as bad as what modern day have made her out to be.
Yeah, it's got a bad rep.
In a group of people, if you have a group of, and I've interviewed people here where this has happened, where there was a group of people coming back from a night out, and all of a sudden they saw this small creature in front of them. She screamed. Well, everyone took to the hills. They just split up and went all the different ways, and they were absolutely terrified. But there was one person couldn't understand what on earth had just happened, and everyone else running for the hills. He is the one that died of the brain hemorrhage that night. She will not appear or announce the death. The person who is dying will never know. It's the people around that she makes aware there is a death coming. Prepare.
Huh.
Wow.
I found that sensitivity. I found that sensitivity to the banshee quite heartening. I have to say, compared to some of the other things we've come against.
Wow. And Nick's obviously got
he's got the
background for
banshee.
it.
Every time we're talking about a particular subject, I always search for an image of it to represent what we're talking about.
That story's insane.
Is there a particular island folklore that you think's a bit bogus, not real?
Yes, there have been some of the new ones coming up. Some of the fresh ones that are coming to the forefront. There's a forest in the north of the island where blood runs down the trees and people have disappeared and screams in the forest and all that nonsense. No, whenever we went back and looked at it historically through the database and went up and physically went through the manuscripts and things, there was nothing to support that history, that alleged
the record
history of stuff like that to support it. So we just write it off. And some of the new stuff can be really you tend to see it in horror movies and things, and the horror movies are very different to what happens in real life.
Yeah.
Right.
Gold at the end of the rainbow.
No gold at the end of the rainbow, unless you're exceptionally quick and
It's funny, just when you're saying, actually, when we're just saying about the banshee, then I've obviously spoke to these guys before about I've had some quite horrendous nightmares over the past months, and it probably is nothing banshee wise, I don't think, but that scream you're on about, this scream that's nothing like you've ever heard, that has happened in my dreams, where this figure comes out of nowhere and the scream is deafening, like makes my eardrums pop, but I'm dreaming this, and it's that scream that is, like you say, is terrifying. I will never want to hear that ever again. But it just made me think that. And then when you're saying that it warns of a death, I mean, thinking of it now, the last one happened about a week before my dad had a potential stroke.
Andrew had one recently, and I lay in bed next to you, and I don't hear these screams. So should I be worried?
Yeah, right.
Oh, what about what was the one you didn't bother waking her up for?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the one we're talking about? That was like, dude.
I have like 9 lives.
Yeah. I'm doing my best. I want the inheritance.
You're gonna get it again, dude.
There is another side to the banshee that really brings it into the modern aspect, in that a lot of people have asked me, well, why does she do this? The old staple of the banshee was that she followed people that had Mac in their surname, or O, like O'Carroll and McHenry and things like that.
McArdle.
That doesn't happen nowadays. Yeah, that doesn't happen nowadays. The bloodlines have all dispersed, and she doesn't follow a particular pattern. But it is interesting that she did follow the bloodlines, and when we go and we understand that she has identified herself as being from the people of the Sidhe. The Sidhe are also noted as doing some very weird experiments with kids and children, and stealing kids and all the rest, especially during pregnancy as well. There was some stories of strange and bizarre things happening with the child in the womb. Now, bringing that into the modern age, where we have got the alien scenario falling in front of us, is it possible that the banshee herself is calling for her own? Because this is the thing.
That's an interesting
she may
point.
only call for 1 or 2 people of that family and never be heard of again. So I have just one person. It was only ever one person on the island that I was able ever to encounter, and it was to find out that during the pregnancy, did anything happen to the mother? Did she have any encounters? Because by the time it comes naturally for the child to come to its adulthood and then it's die of old age, the mother's gone. That information is lost.
Yeah.
So now it's interesting now where we have a perspective where we've got we live in a world now where the mother is lasting longer, and so sometimes it's children are dying of old age before the mother, and we're able to find out, did anything happen during the child's development in the womb? And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see that there have been encounters that would fit in with the new mask, which is ufology. That the fairies of old have now migrated into ufology, and the new mask has unfolded. And so it's interesting to see that crossover, that connection, because, and again, you know, we tend to find as well within ufology, you've got the to 150 years ago, there were cattle that were being killed, and the farmers were blaming it on the fairy, and they had been known to do that for a long time, and cut them up and remove the udders and all the rest. I myself have come across cattle here in Ireland that have been cut up very badly, which would fit in neatly into the animal mutilation. And there were found yards from a particular ferry location that I was investigating.
Wow, that's crazy.
What names did you say that she liked to go for? Mac.
Mac. It used to be Mac or O's. Anything with Mac in the surname or O in the surname.
Because like O'Malley or McIntyre or McArdle or McDonald's.
No, here's the thing. She doesn't like to cross water, so you're pretty safe. But you do have a counterpart in Scotland, which is part of the Pict kingdom, and she was known as the Washerwoman. So there are no barriers there.
I'm moving.
Heritage, you know?
I'm going to live in America.
I got a double barrel on my name, so I've got my name and then his name. Yeah. I'll be taking that off.
We might explain a lot about that.
I mean, you got to change your identity now.
Yeah.
Tuna had an interesting question that I've kind of been staring at for a couple minutes here. It was, does the banshee shriek affect the soul? Like, so if you're around when the banshee screams, like, would that adversely affect you, even though she's calling for death? Would you just being present to that? And forgive me, Tuna, if I'm messing up the meaning here.
I understand. Yeah. If you're there, you will hear it. Your instincts will go into overdrive. And your body will go into fight or flight.
But so it won't. But it won't have like a lasting negative effect on you or anything like that. Okay, just
make you said, yeah. And, okay. Barry, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said you heard this before.
Oh yeah.
You heard this screech before, so yeah, and it hasn't affected you in a long term.
Not yet.
Well, I mean, it hasn't affected your soul for the long term. I like that. That was a great. I was like, yeah, that was pretty good.
I like that.
Now, changelings are another big one, yeah.
Changelings are also part of the fairy kingdom. Yes.
Okay.
So, a lot of that was a misunderstanding of what was happening to the child during its infancy. You know, there were a lot of diseases back then and things like that. So a lot of that was going on, was misunderstood to what they were doing. But you know, there is phenomena such as the stray sod, for instance, which is where you're making your way across the landscape, and you end up in one of their traps.
Taking 2 minutes.
Now, what happens whenever you enter the trap is that you don't know how you get in there. You don't know how to get out. You could be walking around a field that you entered for all night. So you're walking in circles trying to find your way out. You know that there's a gate there, but you can't find the gate. And it's only whenever dawn arrives that finally you see the gate and you can get your way back out again. So that's known as the stray sod. And a lot of people have had really bad experiences with that particular phenomena. And that can be very troublesome at times.
I can imagine.
Is there any other anything else that you've experienced apart from the banshee?
Oh my goodness, yes. Like I've been to a location on top of a mountain which was their territory. I'm known for their territory for a long time, and they appeared, and I was able to photograph them.
That's awesome.
But what had actually happened is that the camera was only seeing one. Now, as I stood on the passage chamber, the Neolithic passage chamber, I was seeing two people, and they were walking away from me. I thought to myself, am I seeing double? Have I got double vision here? But that wasn't the case, because one was wearing a different colored jacket than the other, and one was shorter than the other. So I knew, no, there's definitely two people.
It was definitely two separate.
Yeah, but when the camera was held up to it through the viewfinder, there was one. Now I took the shot, and I have the shot, but what I did see from that particular point moving forward, it allowed me to understand the phenomena that they utilize, is that they show the observer what they want you to see. So, but the camera can't be lied to. The camera showed me one, but yet they were showing me two, and that's because of the manipulation through the conscious brain. Once they have you through the conscious brain, that's it. You've had it. And ufology is the same. When they got you linked through the flashy light, that's it. You should be listening to the voice in the chest, your instinct. That's the one you need to listen to when dealing with ufology, and keep your battery encased in something that'll keep it safe. And then I always, I remember watching that show Dynasty, or as we say over here in this side of the world, Dynasty.
Dynasty. Barry, you and I are the only ones that know what that show is, bro. They're too young.
I'm gonna Google this.
Well, when your woman was abducted by aliens, it was a big thing. It was absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And at that time, for that storyline to happen, that was so bizarre. It just didn't fit in there at all. But there's no point taking that dynasty line any further, because nobody else knows what the hell I'm talking about.
I do. As soon as you said dynasty, I'm like, my man. And I'm like, wait, these guys are way too young. They're not going to have no idea what that is.
It's interesting what you say there, though, about they show you what they want you to see, and I think that's the case with a lot of paranormal stuff. Like, if you're seeing it, they are wanting you to see it that way. Like, they're manifesting that. Like you say, it's not necessarily that what you're seeing. That's how they want you to perceive them. And I definitely agree with that. That's a huge thing that I've noticed.
I wish I could do that. I'd be like 40 pounds thinner. I'd have long flowing locks. You know what I mean?
The only way to get around that is by utilizing and really honing the instinct, understanding how the body operates, how it signals us to give us the information, and how we can use that gift of discernment, how we can utilize that to get around the mask that they present themselves as. Because the very moment that you become suspicious of what they're showing you, puff, they're gone. They will not be back. Yeah.
I'd love to be able to see a fairy.
That in itself is just another mask. So what we the idea of the jinn, the fairy, A lot of ufology. Ufology's got very tricky these days because there's a lot of human interference in that. But in the traditional sense of ufology, the jinn, the fairies, the demons, all of that sources itself from an original source. So it's just the mask. So it's how we interpret that and how we deal with it. And there are ways of dealing with them.
They're not all pretty and stuff like you imagine.
No, I like fairies.
Well, even if you look at Labyrinth, I don't know if anybody here has seen the movie Labyrinth.
Yep.
But at the beginning, Hoggle is spraying fairies, and she's like, "Oh, why?" And she goes to pick up the fairy, and the fairy bites her, and he's like, "Well, yeah, what'd you expect him to do?" And it's like, "Yeah, dude, don't believe everything you read." You know what I mean?
Exactly. That pretty much kind of put it into detail. Like, they're not as, cute or cuddly as they appear. They're actually, quite dangerous.
Yeah, it's like the brightly colored anything in nature. They're the most poisonous,
That's like trying to pick like a rose or something, and there's thorns sticking out of it. And you try, well, of course it's going to cut you. There's thorns.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine telling this, like what we're talking about right now with the fairies and how like really nasty they can be? Could you imagine telling that to your kids about the tooth fairy when they go underneath their pillow to get the tooth while they're sleeping? Like, you couldn't tell your kids that story.
Like they pull it out of your
They'd be
mouth.
terrified. They would just glue their teeth back in so they never fell out. Like,
I've got a book actually. It's a really nice fairy book, and it's of this woman that's basically squished fairies into a book to seal them. It's quite cool actually.
oh, okay.
Like butterflies and stuff. Like how you
Yeah,
have,
but
like,
it's like a fairy version. So like
Interesting.
squished in it.
yet morbid.
Nice.
I like it.
I'll have to find it somewhere.
Chantal just had a good comment there. She says myths are only myths because it's not something tangible to current society. It doesn't mean they are fairy tales or old wives' tales. Today's humans tend to dismiss something they have not seen as untrue. Nobody's going to tell me unicorns and dragons don't exist.
Mermaids. I think mermaids are a big one as well.
But and I think like you said earlier, Barry, it's good that we don't lose this folklore and this mythology, because as soon as we do, we cannot then track these things anymore. We cannot study them anymore. As soon as we come away from that, which I think today's modern society is, I think it will eventually get lost. And it's with things like this that we need to keep it going, really.
No, people
Again,
there actually is a.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Barry. Go ahead. I'll say. Yeah.
There are places that these things will naturally occur in. There are different areas around the planet that we can identify that easily enough. But when you've got people who are going out of the way to meet this type of entity, that's when problems can start, because they've always been known to give us information. They share great knowledge, but it comes at a cost, and that's always been a problem. When if you consider the cult of the dead in Europe, which goes back thousands of years, you're on the edge of that, and previous going into that, you're really starting to delve into similarities like the Oracle of Delphi, where you have this female who gives over the information that is passed by what in appearance is giant serpents, who give the information across to the female, who then passes it on either to the priests of that ruling kingdom, or the politicians, or the ruling elite of the kings and everything else. So they were going to these places to get the information about how to rule, and of course tapping into these things were tapping into the people's ego, greed, and natural dark abilities and everything else. So that in itself was having an effect, and these things have been coming back and forth for a long time. But back in the day, our ancestors were dealing with them, but they dealt with them in a different way that we do now. We have people stick onto their little fairy doors that people stick onto their skirting boards and things like that. And the thing's a great idea. The amount of houses I've been to that trouble has started because they put the damn door on their skirting board. It's all about intent. Everything is intent.
I've heard
and
that
the Ouija
multiple
board
times
works
too.
on
That's crazy.
intent.
Yes.
And when we've got a voice recorder and we say, "Is anyone there?" The intent is there. We open the doorway to allow this through, and that's what is coming through is what we see as the jinn, as the fairy, and everything else, every other mask that it is used to deceive us up to this point.
Yeah, definitely
I'm
agree
going
with
out
that.
and find a mermaid.
You can find a mermaid.
We can find a mermaid for Tuna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can hook Tuna up with the mermaid chick. This is perfect. Oh, this is awesome.
I'm going to find a blondie mermaid.
I definitely agree with you though, Barry. Like, I think I don't know about you guys, but like we've always said when we've talked about things before, and like anything to do paranormal wise or anything, your intentions have a reaction, and it's always you intend something to happen. It probably will.
It's like giving off positive vibes. If you give off negative vibes, you're going to get negative in your life.
Yeah.
So.
Like everyone's probably always had that thing where like you're like having a bad day and it starts like with something in the morning, and then for some reason the whole day it just gets worse and worse and worse. It's because of that negativity, that mindset of it's going to be a bad day, and it makes it a bad. Do you know if that makes sense?
Yeah. I'd like to know why it comes in threes.
Well,
why do you always get three negative ones in the day?
Sign of the devil, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say that goes with like the 3 scratches.
Three, yeah, that's always come back to threes. Multiples of 3. What we on 10 to. I know if you guys got any questions before I keep rambling on.
Well, there is actually I have 2 things I was gonna. One of which is actually a question. The other is actually just kind of more of a comment. But Barry, I don't know if I asked you this question before when we had you on our other show, but we talk about it's actually going back to the Banshee, like where it's always like a very unusual scream. That it's like you pretty much would kind of get that understanding that it is a Banshee. But I guess my question is, it seems as if the Banshee seems to always have been female. Has there ever been like a male kind of version of a Banshee, or has it always just been female?
No, it's always been woman of the she. It's always been a woman of the she. In different countries, of course, they've got different cultural underpinnings, and you would have masculine sides to these as well in various different countries. But certainly from an Irish perspective, it's woman of the she, woman of the man.
And that's kind of what Chantel was saying in an earlier comment. Because Chantel lives in South Africa, and she says in some African cultures, groups of women are actually hired for funerals. They are called banshees or wailers, and they scream and they scream or wail during the ceremony. Thank you. I would have finished reading it, but this makes it way easier. So super lazy. Banshee.
Yeah, I mean that seems to kind of tie together.
I didn't know that, in South African culture. That was when she brought that up. That was
Bye, John.
That was interesting.
They have them in Japan as well. I'm sure they have these professional wailers as such.
Oh, I'm sure.
They do actually. They do.
Yeah.
I call mine my ex-girlfriend.
I reckon it's always women because women are scary.
Yes.
Oh yeah, true. When you start shouting, yeah, definitely.
I can shout if you want me to shout.
Yeah.
Well, just if you do, let me turn my mic down a little bit, okay?
Yeah, hold on. This is
Just warn us first.
Barry's like, I'm never coming back.
Cheers, John. Thank you for joining us, buddy. Have a good night. Anything else from you guys before I go further with what we're
The only thing I was going to ask, I always heard about the jinn. The only reason I honestly know about the jinn is because of the movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember, what was the name of that movie? Was it the Wishmaster? That's what it was. But like, I don't know if Barry, if you've ever seen that movie or not, but like, that's the only way I know the jinn. So you're granted 3 wishes and he takes your soul. Does that have anything to do with it? What is the jinn like? Can you explain more about that?
Well, certainly the idea of the granting of the three wishes originates from the Arabian Nights tales, but those particular tales were actually based toward China, not the Near East, like Afghanistan and Iraq and things like that. It was only, I think it was the French that altered that to make it fit within the Near East. But the jinn themselves, like the identical to the fairy, most times you won't see them. Exceptional shapeshifters, and notoriously violent at times. The same as the fairy, of course. And also there can be good ones as well. But the problem that we face is that we don't know which one we're getting until it's too late.
Right.
And that is a big underpinning that we must consider. And that's why we need to listen to that instinct to get behind that mask of how they appear. Now the jinn themselves, we find that there's quite a bit written about the jinn in the Quran, but of course the jinn are pre-Islamic deities in their own right, and at one time probably were worshipped as gods. And if we look at the likes of the Akkadian wall depictions, we see these huge creatures with heads of animals, but the bodies of humans, and they have huge wings. Now those are genii, and that genii derives from jinn. So we see that manipulation of the word and their appearance change through time. And they're also offering a particular fruit to the kings to allow them to communicate. We're back to this aspect of communicating and to the rulers. And that's what my next book is about. The Fruit of the Gods is about this particular fruit. And I think from what I've discovered might actually be the tree of knowledge, and the fruit it bears to allow us to communicate with the gods.
Wow. Now, T-Bone had an interesting question. Is there any Irish version of zombies or Walking Dead going back through the ages?
Well, we had vampires, of course. In the 12th century, we have listings of vampires, and there are vampire graves all over the country. And what we tended to do was put a rock into their mouths whenever we were putting them into the ground, and that denoted them as being a vampire. But the last vampire graves that I believe were discovered, I think, were in 2009 or 2011, and there were two of them, and they were on top of a mass grave of, I think, 300 people.
Wow! Now, they were on top of the mass grave?
At the same time, they were on top.
That's insane.
What's going on there? I don't know. I was at a meeting with the archaeology department, and they were telling me about this. And I can remember I was giving the whole idea of vegetarianism a real run for its money. And for 2 weeks, I hadn't eaten meat, and I was doing wonderfully well until I sat down to listen to the archaeology department, and they set down some cocktail sausages in front of me. Well, the witch went out, and the cocktail sausages were down my throat, and that was it.
It was over.
That was my spate with vegetarianism, and I haven't went back.
I've seen those, and that's those graves you're on about as well. Isn't that the ones as well where they put iron cages over the top as well?
Not for us. No, we would have buried them upside down as well, head down. Sometimes as well. I think there's a grave in the north where he kept coming back and demanding blood from his tribe, and then they ended up burying him head down, and then they put big rocks on top of him, and then I think that held him down. Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
We have werewolves as well. We've got stories of werewolves as well, and I think I'm intrigued by the werewolf stories because the documentation for it, they actually physically describe the change of the people, the physical change, and that I was intrigued by, because a lot of the times, it was just psychological. They believed, or they had taken some hallucinogenic and believed that they were this animal. But for these witnesses, they who belonged to the church, they were witnessing this physical change down in a tribe in County Offaly. I think it was around the 12th century as well.
That's insane.
That's incredible. That links with also what I've just been reading.
Boo.
But zombies, no. No zombies.
No zombies. No.
That was my response, was boo. I like zombies.
That links to what I've also been reading about that change in people. I've been reading a lot the Ed and Lorraine Warren's, some of their case studies, and they were saying about when somebody's possessed, they go through this time when in possession where their physical features actually change and they look like these beasts. And
right. They have that zombified, emaciated looking appearance.
Yeah. It's that same sort of thing that beast to you.
Yeah, but within the seance rooms of England and old Europe, you have transfiguration, where the medium's face will absorb the essence of the spirit. I shouldn't use the word spirit. That's wrong. They use the essence of the soul, the projecting soul, and their physical appearance will change. So
isn't that just arguing? Isn't that just semantics at that point, though? Spirit versus soul. Isn't it kind of like two sides of the same coin?
What was that?
Isn't soul and spirit kind of two sides of the same coin?
No, they're two separate things.
They're two separate things. I'm new to this whole paranormal stuff. I came on several months ago, so I learned stuff on every show. So I apologize for my ignorance. It was an actual question.
Within today's society, we find that the term soul and spirit is very interchangeable, but they're not. They should never have been. And the soul itself is the thing that gives us our knowledge. Everything that's alive has a soul.
That look is a look that can only happen by a
What is that?
Sorry, I'm listening to you guys. My speakers are on, so I was trying to look up a YouTube video because you're talking about face changes. So while you guys are talking, I'm trying to find this before we get done because this
figured it'd be Marty's fault.
My bad. It's always my fault, dude.
One job.
But when an animal's born, it knows to get up, it knows to go and feed, it knows to stand, it knows to do its various different things. Even animals that don't have the parents around them, and they've left, the animals are left to fend for themselves. They have access to a knowledge. That's the soul. The soul has got the access to the knowledge to keep the body alive. And that knowledge is known as the global consciousness. It's known as whatever you want to call it within these days. That's what the soul links back to. But when the body dies, the soul goes back to that.
Okay.
So when we are communicating with what we think is Great Aunt Bessie or Uncle Buck, we have to be aware that particular soul that we are communicating with has got access to those memories that Uncle Buck had because they're in the global consciousness. We also carry memories with us as well that they can read. So this is where it gets exceptionally deceitful, and we need to make sure what we're dealing with. If I was to put money on it, I would say that 100% of the time, we are never in contact with the soul or the spirit. The spirit moves on to another place. It's gone. We never have communication with the spirit. We are always communicating with the soul.
Huh. I'm like that's a lot. Honestly, I'm kind of processing all that right now. That's a lot to drop right at the last minute. I'm like, dude, you just blew my mind. Albeit not tough to do, but that's a very interesting explanation. I thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's very obviously going back to the face change, it's very similar to actually a scry mirror as well.
Yeah, your face changes in the mirror. Yeah, when you do scrying.
That I dropped that link into the Facebook Messenger thing. If you want to play that, as soon as you pull the video up, get it to about like 1 minute 15 seconds, and then it'll be like a black and white. It's like a CCTV camera. They're doing a séance. It's just a paranormal investigation group, and what they're doing is they put their hands on the table to do some sort of like séance or whatever to talk to the spirits, and you watch this woman's face literally not morph like crazy, but her face doesn't look like that.
It kind of like transforms in a way.
Yes, yeah, it's creepy, dude. And I think the part that's creepy is it's black and white, and then her eyes glow. Like when her eyes hit this certain part of the light, her eyes will glow, and then her face,
the light,
her mouth gets real wide and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. You say 1 minute 15, yeah?
Yeah, 1:15 should be.
All right. So this is it. I'll drop it into the screen. We'll do this one, and then we'll do the best part of the show, the game.
I got one final question for Barry before we get to the special game.
Yeah, no idea.
All right, so yeah, if you're,
do you need sound for this or not?
It's just basically him talking about. I mean, basically saying what I just said.
Oh, okay.
So you're basically going to watch the woman's face right now. Back it up a little bit though. Is it 1:15? Go right where you saw that guy's face. Right there.
There you go.
Yep. Play it from there.
So
it'll go into the next video.
Hey, there's me walking back.
Look at her face.
Oh
my God!
Oh, holy shit! Sorry, that was crazy.
No. They'll play it again. Watch.
Oh.
They're doing a seance, and then they have somebody that says they need to take her away because they watched her face change.
Oh, that's so.
It's like a witch.
That's why it's like she just got this huge smile, like a glass.
Like almost like it reminded me of the Joker. Look at that.
The Joker.
Like, yes, it looked like the Joker. Like her mouth just and look at her eyes.
It's like her mouth just like opened up to this huge grin.
Again, are you sure that's not my ex-girlfriend?
No. Here. Adam, let me just tell you.
Thank God she's your ex if it is.
That was me on one of my first investigations.
That's incredible. That's wow.
Carrie's seen this. Carrie just said she's seen that.
She's seen it happen.
Wow.
Yeah, she said, I'm very lucky to sit in the physical circle and have seen this. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, I would say pants poopingly weird would probably
be going on in that situation is they had a bunch of people at that table, and then they had other people that were watching the cameras. And then when they saw her face do that, they're like, they got on the radio, you need to get away from the table because it's almost like she was being possessed. She doesn't remember smiling. She doesn't remember any of that happening. There was nothing funny going on. There was no reason for her to smile. Her face just did that, and they said, you got to leave the table.
That's not just a smile, neither. That's like her mouth.
No, yeah.
I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that.
I think it's quite possibly the angle of the camera. I think it's quite possibly it's the angle of the camera.
I'm skeptical on it.
That's a good point.
That's why I saw him smiling. And I see him smiling. I'm like, I gotta hear what this man thinks about this.
It's just one of those things. I mean, you don't know, but I mean, you just get what you can from the footage and from what you're told, and that kind of form your own opinion. And it's just, but still, I think with the creepy part, I think Barry's correct. It's the angle of the camera, the way she smiled, and then the glowing in the eyes with the black and white. It really just kind of freaks you out just watching it. Well, she could have been doing that just to mess with people. Who knows?
That's
why I mentioned that's why I mentioned for like the glowing eyes. It could have most likely just been a reflection of the camera.
Right.
There's light still actually. There's infrared light, going through the camera. So it may give the appearance of glowing eyes when it's actually just a reflect, like you see with a lot of
like red eyes in the old pictures where your irises would be red. Not the red eye effect.
Not that kind of red eye.
No.
Nick, you had a quick question, buddy?
So it was actually something else about this was also going to be the comment about when we were talking about the fairies earlier. How that there's people out there who are willing to keep like these myths and legends alive some way. Well, first off, Tom and Amy, you guys may actually know this too. You guys ever heard of something called Kitty J's Grave? It's out in Dartmoor, England. You guys know what that is?
Nope.
So I'm gonna just try to make this a long story short. It's located out in Dartmoor. It's the it says it's a small burial mound. It's at the side of a minor road about 1 mile northwest of Houndsworth at the entrance to a green lane that leads to Natsworthy. And the thing about it is that there's always fresh flowers that are regularly placed on the grave, although no one admits to putting them there. But the folklore of it, here, hold on a second, says there's always fresh flowers on the grave, the placement of which is the subject of local folklore. In this case, they say that some claim that they are placed there by pixies, although it was known that the author Patrice Chase was one person who did this before her death in 1955. But by 2007, the placing of flowers had expanded to all sorts of votive offerings, coins, candles, shells, small casts, crosses, toys, for instance. But I guess where I'm trying to get at is this another one of those kind of things where, in this case, you're saying pixies are actually the ones putting these flowers and these other items on the grave? Is that basically another example of if it was really somebody just trying to keep that legend alive at this point?
Well, it's the same with when I was looking at something on YouTube, and there's like these little doors that have been like carved into the wood, and they're like little homes and that.
Yeah.
If someone trying to keep, the legend of like goblins.
I think maybe the one in Dartmoor, I think maybe that's just people have like jumped on the bandwagon and like, do you know what I mean? It's one of these things that everybody's heard of, so then you get these ones that do it just to keep that ball rolling with that myth. I mean, it'd be good if it is. It would make it, but I doubt it, to be honest.
I actually do have a photograph of what the grave looks like. I'm going to show it here on my green screen, but I think you can actually see the flowers. No flowers on this one, but
technically, Nick, it's a blue screen.
I will.
Yeah, there's always fresh flowers that are placed, and they always say that they're pixies. Aren't pixies usually in the same group as fairies, or are they a completely separate, entity?
I can assure you, for the most part, fairies don't give a damn whether we live or die. So for them to be leaving flowers in memory of someone is highly unlikely. It definitely sounds like a human intervention there than anything else.
Right. Well, there you go.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure the Legend of Fairies didn't that come from the famous film Two Girls that found fairies in the garden near a river? I can't think of it.
Commonly fairies.
That's it.
Commonly fairies, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting when to bring this up, and the funny thing is, no one has ever reported seeing no one has ever actually seen pixies.
I've seen the pixies live.
No one's ever seen.
Oh, are we not? Oh.
Yeah,
where is my mind?
Dartmoor is very near to my dad's, so next time I go down to my dad's, which is actually not this weekend, next weekend, I will see if I can check the place out, and I will drop it onto the channel for you guys to see.
That'd be pretty cool, yeah.
Just so you know, I mean, in case you are able to, the only thing that I could find, although no one's ever actually seen pixies, it does say, though, that motorists passing at night claim to have ghostly figures in their headlights. Others report seeing a dark hooded figure kneeling there.
Fair enough. I'll have a look.
Make sure you drive it at night.
Check it out. But we have overrun slightly. But before we get into a game, we do a little game at the end, Barry. It's just a little random general knowledge game. It's called a shot in the dark. I ask a couple of questions, a bit of fun that we do at the end. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you very, very much for coming on. It's been an awesome,
thank you, Barry.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Barry.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely, your knowledge and your background is amazing.
You'd like to think, seeing as I live in Ireland, that he knows a bit about it.
No, but I'm saying like the stuff you've opened up my mind to more things of like, especially like the soul and the spirit and stuff like that, and that's certainly made me think a lot more. And that's why I love to do this with and interview you guys.
Thank you everyone in the comments as well.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us in the comments. We have read them all. Apologies we didn't get on your some of your questions and that but we have read every single comment, and we certainly do go back through and read them all again. So thank you for that. But yeah, so this is obviously Hefty's favourite part of the show. This is the questions. It's a bit of fun, so just guys in the comments just join in as usual and see who wins this week. I think last week was Chantal won.
Yeah, I think it was Chantal and go figure the psychic medium.
Yeah, Carrie.
Right?
Yeah, the psychic.
What a shock.
She wins every week.
I know. Didn't we like every week? We're like, no, you guys can't. Okay, they won.
Yeah, so no psychic abilities this week. No psychic abilities. All right, the first question is, in 2018, what was the average age of a first-time mother in the UK?
16.
I was going to say 16.
I was going to say
Well,
16.
I said it first. I'm sorry.
15.
15.
Wow, yikes.
18.
18.
18. Come
Well,
on.
you guys already took the numbers around it. I'm not going to go any older. That's not going to be the
17,
average age.
17 is still there.
Yeah.
17.
I think I'm going to go older. I'm going to say 21.
21.
He's right there. He's right. All right, so Barry's right alongside Jeff, who said 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie says 17. Don says 18. Tui says 17.
Chantal.
19.
Chantal says 17. All right.
I mean, I think it could be quite low, but I'm going to go 19.
I'm not going any lower.
So we got all the numbers covered.
Yeah. So we got 16 through 22 covered.
No, 15 through
Wow.
22.
15, yeah, 15 through 22.
We-
So
we all-
somebody's going to be right here.
We're all wrong.
What?
Yeah, Jeff is
11?
the closest.
Get out of here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right on, T-Bone.
Like
What is
28.
it?
But it is
28.
28.8.
28.8. Like in the 30s?
I'm surprised.
Nearly 30. 28.8
What?
is the
that's my
average
age,
age.
damn it.
Certainly not in the area I grew up in.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm American and like we have like 12-year-olds that are knocked up over here. But
Yeah, we get a lot
Not
of that.
Not mine. Nope.
Marty, yeah, he's got like
What is
your daughter's old.
1850?
I definitely own guns, so that's not happening in my house.
20. Wow.
he's like, I'm never coming back.
What
Sorry,
is this,
Barry.
1850? Yeah, like, he can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah, he's like, he won't be in the after green room, I guarantee. He's bouncing.
Right, we've got time for a couple more quick. Which country consumes the most rice?
Oh, it's got to be definitely somewhere in Asia.
India.
Wow.
India.
I'm going to
Damn,
have to
rice.
go with Korea.
Korea.
Say China.
China.
Barry.
I'm gonna go with Vietnam.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Okay.
That's a good shout.
You know what? I'm going to piggyback on Barry's answer. I'm going to say Vietnam, too.
You can't do that. I wasn't allowed to do it.
JP,
That's what we call a double standard here.
Harry's gone China. Rob's gone China. Jeff's gone China. What else we got? We've got Japan there as well.
I'm saying
I'm going to go with New
Chantal's
Jersey.
changed. She's gone China.
Screw Jersey. Whatever. Okay.
I have to try to think.
So which one is it? That one. It is China.
Oh, okay.
China.
So
They
Yeah.
eat,
Huge.
wow. They eat 156 billion kilograms of rice a year.
Think about
Wow.
156 billion kilograms a year.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Thank you.
that's yeah, brush this. See, all right, brush the dirt off.
All right, calm down.
Wow, yo, Tom, you're still riding out that ironing joke. I'd be careful, dude.
Yeah, dude.
I'd
I like
really
to
be
live
careful.
dangerously. I like to live on the edge.
Yeah, right. The edge of a knife that she's gonna slit your throat with.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
don't know.
In the shed.
Anyway, one quick one then. How many planets are there in the Milky Way galaxy?
oh, here we go with Tui and T-Bone.
How many?
Tui and
what?
T-Bone are gonna be on this one.
How many planets are in the Milky Way galaxy?
Oh, man.
It's a bit of a trick question, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's all the ones we know about. So
It's
it's like,
not our solar system. It's the Milky Way
Milky
galaxy.
The outer solar system planets.
Milky
How many
Way.
planets?
If you got trillions of stars and each star has multiple planets, I mean,
How many
trillions and
planets
trillions
are in the
and-
Milky Way galaxy? is the question.
No cheating.
All of them. That's it.
No, it's drawn. No,
I'm going to say 1.
I'm going to go with 200
one.
billion.
It's a big one.
Sorry,
though.
Barry.
What did Barry say?
200 billion.
200 billion.
200 billion. Okay.
You know what's funny? Tumi said 100,000.
What's a 0?
T-Bone said 100 million.
Way more than 100,000.
I'm gonna have to actually go with Barry's answer too. 200 billion.
I'm gonna go 100 billion just to be difficult and be right in the middle.
I'm gonna piggyback on Amy's. I'm gonna say 1.
Thank you.
1
billion, 2
Yeah, you're
billion,
still wrong.
100,000.
Carrie says a billion.
It is. Wait, it's 100 billion.
Is it really?
You saw that.
I didn't see
You
it.
saw that. You
I
see
swear.
T-Bone called it. Yo,
100
T-Bone wins, I
billion?
think, yeah?
Yeah, it says NASA estimates there are at least 100 billion planets in the Milky Way. It's an estimate, though. They don't know.
I have scammers calling me right now. Should I answer this on air or and mess with them or
I
just
don't know what
leave
you're
it?
going to do.
Don.
It could be Bobo.
Put it on. Hello? Hello?
Hello, may I speak to Adam Werther?
Oh, sure.
Oh, boy.
Hello, my name is Vivian Robles with SB8 Analytics. I'm calling on behalf of CVPHP.
Oh.
We are conducting a survey for CVPHP.
Oh, so you're like legit. Okay, call me back. I got a backfired. I was like, there's no way. It's either going to be my car's extended warranty.
Yeah.
The government is suspending my social security number or something. And they're like, oh, hey, it's your healthcare provider asking. And I'm like, and I just got my first shot. So I'm like, oh, you're legit. Yeah. Sorry.
That's brilliant. What a way to end the show. What a way.
I really hope you get the same person that calls you back so you can explain what just happened.
Nope. I'm gonna leave it at that. Nope. Just leaving it at that.
But yeah, that's all we've got time for, unfortunately, tonight. We have run over. But quickly from us, next Saturday night, 29th, we are going to the Poltergeist house in Rotherham with Haunted Nights. We are going to do some crazy experiments, and we'll be filming all of it. So hopefully we'll get some good activity.
Photographs, haunted wedding dress, haunted
lots of good stuff. Apologies, there hasn't been a video for the past 2 weeks. We did do one the other day. I reviewed all the footage for about 5 hours and got nothing. So I can't put a video up. So it's how it goes. Anything from you guys before we go?
Well, I could start off quickly as kind of an announcer, if you will, is although we're about to end the show, the Paranormal United Network will be back with Barry in just a few hours because Barry will be on Jeremy's show, The 13th Dimension. What, I think about 2 hours?
Barry.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, seriously, Tom, Amy, Adam, Marty, it's kind of funny. Jeremy and I, our shows that we do, this show and his show, 13th Dimension, we, as he said, we're double heading tonight because we got the same guest, which is Barry, so he's coming back on in just 2 hours from now.
Is your popular guy, Barry?
Definitely.
You think I'm going to movie?
Tuna wants to know, Nick, Tuna wants to know what channel we sub to for the show later tonight.
So, well, we haven't
13th Dimension?
Yeah, so, I was going to say, so the Paranormal United Network, we haven't really made it like an official YouTube channel yet, but we do have it on Facebook.
Yeah, it's on Facebook.
You can look it up on Facebook. Go on
Tuna doesn't use Finbook or Finstagram or anything like that. Tuna uses FinTube.
Well, like I said, it's answered this question. That's the other show that's also on Paranormal United Network that Barry will be on later. That's going to be at 6 p.m. CST, 7 p.m. whatever time zone, Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's I think for you guys, for you, Barry, I think it might be about 11 o'clock or midnight. I think for you guys. I could be wrong. I'm not.
Could be around that time. I'll watch out for his link. 11
Yeah.
or 12 o'clock. Yeah.
It's another StreamYard show, so he'll just add you on StreamYard once again.
I want to thank Barry, honestly. I want to say, Barry, thanks. Please, I hope we didn't scare you off the show. Please come back for another show sometime, man. You seem like a real cool, real nice guy. You very knowledgeable. Super cool to take the time. So thank you, and please, don't let us scare you away.
I was going to say, Nick, you probably should have had him on the 13th Dimension first, and then had him on here because I don't know if he's going to show up for the next one after this. I don't know if he's going to.
Definitely not.
But yeah, we'd love to have you back on if you have the time for it in the future.
Absolutely.
And Tuna, just to let you know, Barry, Tuna has been calling you Tuna Sage of the East, the whole show. So you were highly regarded. You were highly regarded.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Where's Tuna Sage of the West?
We won't. That's another show. And T-Bone takes the trivia trophy today. So rock on, dude. You won.
Yeah, congrats.
Contact. I'll give you Tom and Amy's info to collect your prize.
Yeah, I was gonna say get your trophy.
Yep.
I'll send you Bobo.
There you go.
You send it back.
We never even said what the prize was. They actually do get a prize. They get a luxury lifetime of sugar cubes from the U.S.
Okay.
Oh, Styes?
That's true.
Styes. The Sage of the North. All right.
All right, guys. Yep. So we're going to finish up here. Join us next week. I can't remember what we're doing. I think we've got to plan the show yet, but I will advertise it before then. And we'll see you next week. Barry, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully we're going to have you on again at some point soon. Been a pleasure. Take it easy, guys.
Thanks, Barry.
Have a good night.
Take care, everybody.
Take it easy, guys.